Here is Stratagem Chapter 2. It's a short one, but it's a good one. I lay waiting, breathing heavily. These guys seemed like a bunch of future frat boys who were looking for a dark thrill, but frat boys wouldn't know my name. No one knew my name, so maybe they were a part of some other group I didn't know about, rogue members of the agency. If so, why was the getaway car a rusty Pontiac? I knew it wasn't in my best interest to underestimate anyone, but it was the only thing that kept me calm and in control. Then I began to wonder what the boy in the trunk with me was thinking. He had moved away from me, sensing some change in me, and was now pressed up against the front of the trunk. He knew my name, so maybe he knew what I was. He would be ready when they stopped, and he would be the first one out, the first one they would see. I tried to think quickly about my element of surprise, how I would fool them, but the vehicle finally pulled to a slow stop before I could come up with a great plan. "So, is it okay we didn't cuff her?" I heard a voice ask from outside. "Well, we'll see when we get there, but I think Brody can take care of himself just fine." Brody, the name of the boy in the trunk with me. I mentally recorded the information. "Guys," Brody said, his voice loud from the interior of the trunk. "Guys, she did it. Be prepared." Damn it, they knew about me. I still could surprise them, though. Everyone was always shocked by what I could do. I moved towards the boy, trying to get closer to the door. He tried to grab me, but I was now as strong as him. We fumbled in the darkness for a minute, and I felt my elbow connect with his face. "Shh," he said quietly. His words were muffled, so I could tell he was grabbing at his face. He let out a groan. Suddenly, the trunk popped open. It was still dark, but there was a glimmer of dawn on the horizon, and I tried to use that to my advantage. I jumped up quickly, brushing Brody's arms away. "It's me," I yelled, trying to move out of the trunk so that they wouldn't have a chance to take in all of the details. I shot out, and as my feet hit the ground, I stumbled, my body stiff from being confined, and caught myself with my hands to the ground. "She's in there," I yelled, standing and pointing at the trunk. I was ready to run. "Holy shit," one of the boys yelled. I was hoping they would be looking at the trunk, but as I looked at them, the tall blonde pulled his gun up and aimed it at me. The two boys stared at me, the blonde and the driver, who had a shaggy fringe of dark hair. The driver looked at the trunk, and I turned to see what he was looking at. Brody was sitting up in the trunk, holding his nose where I hit him. Damn, that stings. He pulled his hand away and wiped blood on his blue jeans. More blood dripped down the front of his leather bomber jacket. I glanced down at my own clothing, a sweater and leggings now stretched to the size of a man. It was a dead giveaway that even though I looked like Brody in every way, I was an imposter in the skin of their friend. "Nice try, mimic," the blonde boy said. "Dan, grab her." Dan must be the driver, who I hadn't seen. He had a chiseled, clefted chin and muscular physique. His build was like the blonde's, kind of lanky. In fact, they had many similar facial features. Dan stepped towards me, eyes wide open. Man, I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. Aaron, dude, she looks exactly like Brody. I knew I was done. I couldn't compete with a gun. There were other mimics who could, but I wasn't trained to. My dad wouldn't lie. The blonde, who I now knew was Aaron, said, pulling out a set of cuffs. I remembered that they had dropped cuffs earlier. I should have known then that they were aware of what they were dealing with. For being an expert at observation, I hadn't noticed the obvious with these boys, but most likely, I just didn't want to acknowledge the obvious. The real Brody pulled himself out of the trunk. Aaron handed the cuffs to him, and he walked toward me, standing face to face with me. He stared at me, his eyes traveling all over my face. I knew he was trying to look for differences. They all did. But I was able to take anyone's form down to every minute detail. I saw the mole above Brody's lip, and I knew he would see the same mole on mine. I was an exact replica. "This is insane, Aaron, for real," Dan said, breaking the silence. Put the cuffs on her, Aaron motioned to Brody. That should stop her. Brody grabbed my hands. I didn't struggle as he gently clicked the cuffs in place. They burned as they settled down onto my wrists. I couldn't help myself as I cried out in pain. I studied the cuffs. They were silver. Yes, these boys had done their homework. I felt pins and needles, and my knees turned weak. I was going to pass out. Grab her. She's going to fall. Brody stepped forward, and everything went dark.